Hey everybody, Sean with Triangle of Truth here, and I am back with the last video in my series of tops for the year. So this one is going to be an episode of Manga Madness to close out my time with you guys for 2020. And I've got a list of 6 animes that were my favorite that I have checked out this year. Now, some of these I've watched in their entirety. Some of these are still very much ongoing that I am watching. That said, they are the ones that by far and away have stuck out the most in my head. I've got 6. So with that said, let's jump right into it. So number 1 on my list is God Eaters. This, I believe, is an older anime. This is one that, sadly for me, it was only 1 season long, at least from what I found on Hulu. But to me, it was one of those where right from the very first episode, I was hooked. Of course, I like the idea of, you know, people, big monsters with giant weapons, and that's what they do. They call them God Eaters, and they have the ability to control, I think what they're called, origami, something like that. And that's part of what makes their weapons and gives them their powers and everything that they have, the increased strength, stamina, etc., etc. And it follows the main character who becomes a God Eater. He's a rookie, but nonetheless, right from the get-go, he has one of the... Actually, he is the most powerful out of everybody because of the weapon and what he's able to do to wield and control it. My only complaint about it really is that it was 1 season. I wish there was more to it, because the twist that they did at the very end in the last episode or 2, I honestly did not see that coming. And so it's one of those, you really left it wide open. Now, I could be dead wrong. There may be another season somewhere that just never got published. If you guys know that, let me know down in the comments. Or I may just have to go over to the manga and figure out what happens afterwards. So, but that's the first one on my list. The next one is another one that's it's a favorite amongst people when it comes to animes. I know it is. Sorry guys, I just got around to watching it this year, but that is Black Butler. Black Butler, what can I say? It's freaking awesome. Sebastian may be one of the coolest characters I've ever seen. Movies, anime, or comics. It's just very cool what he does. And what he's able to do, how much of a smartass that he can be towards his master, CL. Just because, I mean, the boy's a spoiled little rich brat. You can see that. You see how he is, see how he talks, but the way Sebastian is able to do things and say things to him, to me, is, I think it's hilarious. So, I just finished season 1 of it, and I'm into season 2. So, I know I haven't really got into the juicy stuff just yet, but nonetheless, I'm really enjoying it, and I can see why it's a favorite amongst everybody who loves animes. Kind of continuing on with this trend, the next one is another one that is huge right now, especially because anywhere I go, if I go to any kind of store that carries anime things and this and that, mangas, this is one that they've got a lot of items for. That is My Hero Academia. I actually started watching this one because of my niece Ella and Jenna, because they brought me into this one. And Jenna had me check out the first couple of episodes. She also had our niece Ella do the same thing. Well, Ella got hooked way more immediately than I did. And I happened to come out into the living room a little later on that same day, and Ella was several episodes in and whatnot. And I asked her, I was like, you know, are you liking this? She goes, yeah. What episode are you on? And I think at that point she was already in like the teens, and I had only watched like episodes 1, 2, and maybe 3. And so, yeah, I sat down with her. Granted, and I went and I caught back up on the other episodes, but I sat down with her, and then I think maybe about an hour or 2, I just sat there watching it with her. It just kind of became our thing. She has since finished the entire thing. as far as I know. Everything is on Hulu. I am into season 2 right now, so that's where I'm at. I've still got a ways to go with it. I still know there's more coming out, but nonetheless, it's an awesome show. All Might is really freaking cool. I can't wait to see when they get into like the big bad and whatnot, who's like the other one that wields the same thing that he does, and see what that's like. So I can't wait for that. Next one is another one that was suggested to me. Most of these were actually suggested to me by Jenna. She's the biggest anime fan. But this was one that, when I watched the first episode, what I thought this was about, based on the thumbnail, I was so wrong. And that's Fire Force. Sorry, I thought it was about firefighters. And just based on the fact that they wear similar bunker gear to them and the hats. And it ended up being something so much more awesome than it was, than I thought. And I immediately got hooked. I finished season 1 within a couple of weeks. And I've had to wait for them to get season 2 out and going. I know it's a few episodes in. And so I'm still continuing and watching, and keeping up with all of that one. So I'm excited to see where the story goes. I thought it was cool that he did get to see and find out that his brother was still alive, and find out more about his powers and this and that. And so it's going to be really fun to see where they take the story, and who is actually really kind of pulling the strings behind his little brother and the really freaky girl that also was there with him and whatnot. So I can't wait to see where that keeps going, and how deep deep of a story they can actually come up with. Because so far, there's been, to me at least, there's been a lot for them to tell, and to do that in just 24 episodes has actually been really cool to see. So they did a lot of story arcs that I think are going to start coming back and closing here in the next season or so. This next one is one that was tried on a whim, and it ended up being cute, funny, interesting, and amazing all in one. And that was just in the first few episodes. And it is called That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. This one was one that was like, the title is what got us to watch it. And it turns out it really is as it sounds. It's a guy from Japan who was murdered in cold blood on the street, and he gets reincarnated in this other world as a little monster slime. Well, when he dies, there are certain abilities that he said he wished he had or something like that. And so as that's happening, you hear this other voice, which ends up being what he calls Great Sage. It's kind of like his inner CPU type thing, so to speak. And it gives him all these abilities and this and that. And he ends up being a slime that is actually, as of right now, the most powerful being in this world. Even though most of the time they're viewed as just like this little lowly thing. They're harmless until and then when he fights, he finds out that no, he's a lot more of a badass than everybody thinks. And what I've enjoyed about this is, one, like I said, it's got a little bit of everything. It's cute. It's got a lot of hilarious moments. Got a lot of serious moments. But it also shows a lot of really cool lessons as well. The slime in and of itself is basically slowly kind of creating this own big village. But what it is he is inclusive with everybody. All these monsters that normally they all live apart, they're now living together, sharing this world. He's got, dwarves. He's got ogres. He's got werewolves. And, they're all coexisting in this world under him, even though he really doesn't want to be the leader, but he is. So so far that's kind of everything that's going. And I think one of the cool things that they did is, in this world, none of the monsters have names. And apparently, when you name them, one, they generally will come to want to serve you if you name them. But two, when you name them, they all evolve into the next class of being. For instance, you know, the werewolves became like tempest wolves, and then there's the star tempest wolf and stuff like that. So you see them do that. The ogres, you know, I think there were goblins or something. They come ogres, just stuff like that. So, and you see all these different classes like you would in a video game. You know, like Final Fantasy, stuff like that, where you see them, and it's just so cool. You know, I think the coolest thing is so far with the slime is now he's got the ability to, after, let me caveat that, back up here. One of his big abilities is called Predator. And what that enables him to do is basically he engulfs an entire being, he absorbs it. And what that allows him to do is he analyzes everything, his great sage does, and then he's able to take their abilities. So he can get flame, you know, black lightning and thunder, while he ends up kind of saving this one character from, they had the fire god within them, Ifrit, and she ends up basically, once the god is out of her, she begins to rapidly age and die. Well, when he engulfs her and gets her powers, he gains the ability to take a human shape. And he ends up kind of being a she, so to speak. But nonetheless, he's able to do that. So now he can fight in both that form, or he'll turn into his little slime ball and do his thing. So I thought that was really cool that they did something like that to give the character another dimension. So it's definitely one of those where it's a very, very engrossing story. And it just, that would have to be the surprise of the year in terms of anything I've read or watched that would be that good, or as good as it is, I should say. So if you haven't checked that out, it's on the Funimation app, or I believe HBO Max just now is adding all the Funimation, so hopefully it'll pop up there too. So if you have HBO Max, check it out there. Otherwise, if you've got the Funimation channel, you subscribe to that, it's on there. So definitely check it out. The last one I have is I wanted to experience a horror anime, like more so than Black Butler. And so this is one that I'm halfway through. I think we're halfway through watching it right now. And it's called Shiki. And most lists that you can find, this is one of the top recommended horror animes. I can see why. It is so good. And if you're a horror fan, you have to watch it. It's a great story. The way they do the vampires in this and whatnot, to me, has been very cool to see. So basically the short synopsis of it is people in a small town, in like a Japanese mountain, rural small town, all of a sudden this new family moves into this giant, beautiful, like castle-like house that moves in. Well, not long after that happens, people start turning up missing. Well, not only do they start turning up missing, then you kind of start seeing them coming back and walking back as the dead. And you eventually learn that they're what they call Shiki, and that's people that come back from the dead, and they're vampires. And apparently some of them will die, and then they will come back to life. Some of them do, some of them don't, selectively. And so right now I'm at about the halfway point where they know what's going on. They've tried to do things to prevent you know, the vampires from feeding, and then they're learning that not a good idea because they're a lot more organized. They've even got one of them can walk, actually is a day walker. So the story is just now starting to get really, really juicy. The very first girl that you see ends up, of course, she ends up getting, the very first girl you find that gets killed, they find dead and bury. Waiting to see what happens with her, because she, you know, did a few things to get back and get revenge on the guy that she was trying to get the attention of, because she was a prissy little shit when she was a human, and only liked this one guy, and he wouldn't even give her the time of day. And so she ends up eventually killing his best friend, and then within a couple episodes now, she seems to have changed a little bit to where she doesn't quite want to do the bad things. So I'm waiting to see if she kind of does something to flip, and that's kind of where some of the help comes from, or not. I want to say we're on like episode probably 12 or 13 of 22 or 24 episodes of the season. So I'm excited to see how it finishes. Anyways, that is all I've got for this week, guys. I hope everyone has had the best year that you can make out of what we've been dealing with in 2020. I hope it's not been all bad for you guys, and that you've had some positive experiences, whether, you know, with your family, whether you found solace in comics and anime like we have here. Let me know in the comments, of course, what your favorite animes were that you've checked out this year. Let me know some animes that you would like to see us watch and do some reviews on, because we definitely want to keep Manga Madness going into 2021. I hope everyone stays safe, stay healthy, have a great one. Catch you guys next time. Later.